My name is Emily. I will be your host this evening. So, is this anyone's first time at our show? You can raise your hand. Cool. A lot of newcomers. So, to give you a little bit of background, we are a storytelling show, and we've been performing here at Martin's Corner about roughly once a month for the past year and a half. And we are always looking for different ways to tell stories. And so tonight, we have 7 featured storytellers, and they are all going to tell their stories without a script or without paper. And most of the stories, not all, but most have never been written down. So they'll basically be doing what I'm doing, but they'll sound a lot more put together. And we also have live music, as you just heard. Our musicians tonight are Terrence on guitar, Parker Langvardt on bass, Eli Wilson on saxophone and keyboard, and Nicole Tuma on flute. And just a fun fact that you guys can think about tonight is that these 4 musicians were never played together before about a month ago, 3 weeks ago. Which, to me, knowing nothing about music is the most mind-blowing thing I could imagine. But yeah, and so we also have an open mic in the middle of the show, as I mentioned before. I think we have a few slots left.
We got 4 slots left.
We have 4 slots out of 5 left on the open mic. So yeah, if one of the stories you heard tonight, makes you think of something that you want to come up here and say, you have 3 minutes or less, and you win a free beer. So it's pretty fun. So our storytellers tonight are Eileen Tull, Bill Drew, DJ Howard, James Gordon, also known as G.P.A, John Keefe, Rebecca Edmonson, and William Covert. And all of their stories fit the theme of Reconsidered, and basically they're all about a change of perspective of some kind, and the big and large things that could happen over the course of years, or over the course of a day, that can, change you in some way or another. So we will go ahead and get started with Eileen.
Hello.
So I first encountered the ugly couple when I was first living in Chicago, about 6 years ago. But it didn't occur to me what had really happened until many years later. I was riding the bus, a long bus ride from my job at the time, a job I resented for being necessary. I had my purse on the seat next to me because I used to be the type of person who would put my purse on the seat next to me instead of holding it in my lap. I most assuredly carried a scowl smeared across my face, as was my custom at the time. It was winter in Chicago, and my misery was palpable. The ugly couple boarded the bus at Grace Street. Now, when I say ugly, I mean ugly. As ugly as the day you were born. As ugly as sin. As ugly as a toad, or in this case, 2 toes. Their ugliness made them ageless. They were 29 or 17, somewhere in the range of something. She, the ugly she had long, stringy, dirty blonde hair, looking that it would be less dirty if she actually washed it. Some of the strands stuck together, clumping, covered in something, I dared not guess what. Her long, stringy hair ran down past her shoulders, which were enveloped in a large, furry monstrosity of a coat. If I had known then to call her a hipster, I would have done so, with disdain. My eyes had been tracking the tacky coat, but then they beamed back up to her face. Her face. Her nose was large and knobbly, managing to be swollen and bony all at once. A wart or a rather large pimple adorned the tip, reminding me of that reindeer that nobody wanted until he could get them out of a jam. Her face was covered in red splotches, a mixing of acne and patchiness. Pockmarked was the word I used later to describe her to my boyfriend at the time, he who also scowled and laid his bag on the seat next to him. The ugly she had eyes, of course, but they were too close together, hovering and holding each other under the umbrella of her eyebrow, singular. My eyes flickered back down to her mouth, the kind of mouth that a child might draw badly onto a fish, wide, lippy, and cold. Her teeth weren't the sort of color I approved of, nor the shape I would have preferred. Funny thing about that mouth, though. The sides of her gargantuan flapper were pointed up towards her bulbous nose and mousy eyes. A smile on the ugly she's face. The source of her smile boarded the bus behind her. He, the ugly he was younger than she did, but he was just as ugly as a sinful toad on the day it was born. He was slightly gawky, with the look of a tall person who was ashamed to be so. He stooped so as to avoid bumping up against the straps hanging from the bus's innards. His neck disappeared into his shoulders, giving him the look of a sickly vulture. Now, at the time, my compassion extended no further than myself, so when I looked at his face, I saw disgust. He was splashed different colors, his mostly black skin peppered with bursts of pale white like a human Dalmatian. In my age, I see now a skin disorder, a pigment deficiency of some kind, but at the time, I could see only disfigurement. His blotted Rorschach face was covered with acne that covered white or black skin with no bias. His large insecty eyes dominated his face, but they were focused only on the she. My silent snide description of the ugly couple made me chortle as they walked past and took a seat a few rows back. Thank God I'll never be that ugly, I thought. On the outside, anyway. They took a seat and whispered a little to each other for a little, and then she laid her head on his shoulder, and they rode on in serene silence. A full, rounding silence. Not the empty kind that I was so always desperately attempting to fill. My desperate attempts to fill silences on buses next to my he at the time were loud and void of content. I had this delusion, though, that I was so clever to strangers on buses, and those strangers would go home to their spouses and say, I sat near the funniest girl on the bus today. She sat with a he, and they talked very loudly without looking at each other. How wonderful they must be. I carried that delusion at the time. Months later, the winter started to thaw, but I remained just as miserable and frozen. My purse firmly planted on the seat next to me, my brow furrowed, my scowl becoming a permanent fixture on my face. I was walking, this time on the west side, near where Austin and Fullerton meet, past a small park. My pace was fast, and my head was down like a linebacker. I heard laughter, a sour sound at the time, the laughter of other people. I looked up, and I was amazed to see the ugly couple. They were just as ugly as I had remembered. And just as happy. They held hands and smiled at each other as they moved past me, their ugliness shining in the sunlight, their ugliness, the thing they couldn't see on each other. I wondered, where were they going? Where they went, where they usually were. They were utterly indifferent to me and my judgments. My opinion on their faces had no bearing on their day. I wondered why I didn't feel like that. Why I and my he were constantly scrutinizing other humans we didn't even know or speak to. Why didn't we have the happiness of the ugly couple? We weren't nearly that ugly. only way to be in the world. I still sit on buses. I hold my purse in my lap now. I turn the corners of my mouth up towards my eyes, which I keep open and have removed the blinders. And I think about the ugly couple and how beautiful they were at the time.
It was 1980. I was in a left-wing newspaper office, knocking out an article about coca vendors, the Republic Steel. My mind was drifting in and out to thoughts of discomfort down below, Kamidala. I just had, the rain was coming down sideways. There was a bang, bang, bang on the windows. Like there was a madman outside trying to get in. Came back from taking a whiz. And I was reminded of a joke. If your dick burns, just don't try to light it. Guy came up the stairs, banging on the door. We let him in. It was an old friend of mine. Came down from Milwaukee. Said, Bill, I got a letter for you. It's from Mary. I unfolded it. Billy, I just wanted to let you know that I'm getting married. I didn't want you to hear it from anybody else but me. We had a good thing going. Melanie adored you. But you were married to the revolution. And I knew she was right. She had thrown my ass out about several months ago. Last straw she told me was the day I came back from the Indian reservation with my head all bandaged up. Because some big dude had swung a big space heater on me. I took that letter as an assignment, like a private detective. I had to go out and do an investigation of my own soul, of my psyche. What was I? What had I become? At first I thought of myself as a movement hero. I was an ex-con at the age of 25. I knew all about wildcat strikes, beef luggers fighting against scabs on picket lines. First day I was in state penitentiary in Waupun, I smelled smoke in my cell. Because some guys had tried to burn down the laundry in honor of Angela Davis's birthday. I lived a hell of a life and I just couldn't settle down. I couldn't become part of the system. But that happened to a lot of people when the 70s changed to the 80s. R&B gave way to disco. A bunch of people sharing a joint on an overstuffed sofa turned into one or two people go sliding off into the can to do lines on the top of the urinal. Factories went down south. It was the time of Reaganomics, the revenge of the suburbs. We lost our confidence. I remember the time that Janet came over to visit me. Accidentally, on purpose, a condom slipped out of her purse. But I didn't want to have sex with her. Maybe it was she reminded me of my little sister. I don't know what it was. Then when she drank that last bottle of wine with carbon monoxide chaser, she left instructions to her parents. Throw a party for all my friends. I went to the party and me and Eileen got drunk. I took her back to my apartment. But then I remembered I didn't have the keys. I had already left. So we went to a motel where there was leaky waterbed. Her bra broke off when we were taking it off. She gave it to me as a souvenir. I never made good on my promise to get back in touch. The next day I took a bus to Milwaukee, to Chicago. Wanted to take a job at 127th and Terrence in an automobile factory. Then after I got laid off, I had a triangular trade. I would start out at a tavern in Lithuanica, over by 35th. I was selling reefer and coke. All the guys in there were hog butchers, petty criminals, drug abusers like myself. Then I'd scoot across the Dan Ryan. I went to a place called Rudy's, over by the Robert Taylor Homes. I remember listening to the jukebox, Happy Birthday, Martin Luther King. And then meanwhile, I'm having fantasies that I could have sex with Rudy's mother and her daughter, and his daughter. The cocaine is a hell of a drug. I know if you use too much of it, you can't even get hard. I remember I took the barmaid, Eleanor, we went to a motel. I could click it, I could lick it, but I couldn't stick it. I picked up a hooker at 50th and Halstead. She had mittens on. She had to roll the chili cap down on my dick with her lips. But she had no fingers. What kind of person was I? What kind of a guy was I? What kind of life was that? I didn't care if I was selling to a pregnant girl. I didn't care if some guy jumped off the bar stool when I walked in, bragging about how he sold his baby's clothes. to get some money. Not too long after that, I got busted. The cops knocked down my door. They found a baseball-sized rock of cocaine. They took my triple beam scale. They ransacked my political books. They arrested my wife. They took her off to jail. 2 weeks after she had given birth, by C-section, to my oldest son. What kind of guy was I? I beat those charges. I had an alibi. I was white. Fast forward 25 years. I fucked around and got cancer on my pancreas. All my friends showed up for my 66th birthday party, prepared to say goodbye. It was like a reunion and a wake. Somebody got word to Mary, and I called her. And she said, her husband said, Mary's not home. 20 minutes later, she called me. She said, Billy, I couldn't talk to you because I was crying. She came down to the birthday party, and we had a tender reunion. I should have introduced her to my wife. I asked her how was Melanie. She said, Billy, you're not going to believe what my husband does for a living. He's the warden of Green Bay State Reformatory. That's where you were, wasn't it? Dark memories.
When I told my mother that I was getting a therapist, she said, "A therapist? I'm your mother. I'm your therapist." When I asked her what her life looked like if drawn on a map, she told me it starts out as a dot with a continuous line circling that dot, drawing circles that are very close together. And then the circles stop. A straight line shoots out to another dot, and a continuous line circles that dot, again, drawing circles that are very close together. From this circle shoots another straight line out to another dot, and the continuous line that circles that dot draws circles, but they are very far away from the previous circles. She said, at this point in my life, I'm drawing big circles. To big circles! I don't know about lines and dots, but I do know one thing at 25 is that there is not one place to get to, not one place to end up. I'm always in motion, and my mother, she'd call me a wanderer. She told me I wasn't one of those crying, whining kind of babies no. She said that whenever I got uncomfortable in a room full of strangers, I'd leave it and I'd circle my way back to her. At a play in the 3rd or 4th grade, she told me I would be successful at whatever I do by the way I held the microphone. She'd call me the fearless one. Sorry, that's her calling me right now. 1 second. Hi, Mom. Hey, yeah, how are you? Good. Graduation? You're coming down, right? Excited? No, I don't really know. I have so much going on, with the show I'm running and that literary magazine. I still have like 50 submissions to read, and I don't know, I don't really have the time to be excited. It just sort of feels like something I have to do, something I have to, get through. And I don't know, but I am a little nervous because come September, Dad's not going to pay my rent anymore. I have to figure that out. But I don't know. Yeah, you're right. No, I'm doing everything that I should be doing. I started a company, like a show by myself, and I'm teaching for free. I'm organizing an internship with that French girl. Yeah, I'm doing it all, but I don't know. I don't really know what to do, and it's hard, with the show. The show's going well, though. Yeah, I'm actually performing in a show right now, yeah. Yeah, you want to say hi? Say hi, Mom. Yeah, Mom, you hear that? Yeah, you're a star. No, I'm being rude. I know. I should probably stop. Okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye. My mother and I, we talked a lot about faith and how when the line of fate intersects it, a holy moment happens. Lines that form unanswered questions, like how she dreamt of me before she realized her ovaries were broken, how I came to her when she was broken, how she will always come to me when I am broken, where our maps meet. She tells me that I will be successful, that I am successful. I am successful. I'm sorry. That's her calling now. Hey, Mom. Hey, yeah, no, I know, I'm sorry. I haven't talked to you in a while, but I've got good news. I got the job, yeah, at Kuban Cabin, yeah. And, Caitlin at the fitness studio, yeah, she's agreed to pay me $15 an hour, for extra classes, and it's just crazy. I just feel so, connected to my body, and I think that's why I'm getting all these, opportunities, as soon as I worked out, the doors just swung right open for me, and I got all this opportunity, and it's been great. I just feel so strong and confident, I just can do whatever I want, and it's great. And you know what? I stopped smoking, Mom. I don't want to tell you, but yeah, I've gone a month without smoking. Isn't that awesome? And it's crazy what it does to your sense of smell, Mom. The other day, I was doing some laundry at the studio, and I went into the closet and I opened the door, and the sense of laundry just washed right through my nose and entered my body, and it was intoxicating. And I felt drunk, Mom. I really did, but I was totally sober, and I had to stop working. I couldn't move, I couldn't do anything. I just felt so in tune and connected and whole, and it felt like a dream. And speaking of dreams, I really haven't been doing much of that lately. Between Kuban Cabin and running my show, I'm just so busy. I just keep going. I'm doing it all, and it's great. I feel great and confident. But I don't know. I just go home and I sleep and it's black, and then I wake up and it's like I never slept at all. And I'm going, and I just keep going, and I don't know when to stop. Then I have to run that show, and it's hard. No, I know it's rude, but it's the only time I can talk to you, really. I know. I'm such a sacrifice. I don't feel like no. I know it's okay. I'll go. I'll talk to you. I'll go. My mom and I are tight. I mean, we ought to be because she adopted me even after, as she'd always say, the doctors expected brain damage, and that's love. And I think about that time when the doctors expected brain damage and being a kid and being sick all the time and you know, I always got these like really bad colds and just bedridden as a child. And my mom, she'd tell me, you know, sick kids equals strong adults. And I believed her then. I did. Sorry. She's calling again, you know, moms. Mom? I don't know why I'm so afraid to apply for jobs, to submit my writing, to actually fucking writing. I just don't want to do it anymore. I just want to sit and I don't want to move. I just don't know why I'm so afraid. That bitch, she fired me, Mom. She fired me at the fitness studio. And I'm sick, Mom. I'm sick. And I don't know what's wrong. It started as a sinus infection, and then it got into strep, and then a root canal, and wisdom tooth extraction. I don't know what's wrong with me, Mom. I have this rash that's climbing down my back, and the doctors, they say, I'm fine, I'm not sick, I'm okay, the test results are negative, I'm fine. That bitch, she cursed me, they all say they call her a witch, I don't know. I'm trying to get people to come to my fucking show, and nobody comes to my show, and I can't do it anymore. I'm coming, that's okay, it's coming, I can't go on anymore. Hello? I remember as a kid always being terrified of getting my shots at the doctor, and my mother, she'd never lie to me. She'd always, you know, tell the truth. When I'd asked her, is it gonna hurt? She'd say, yes, but not for very long. Not for very long. I'm sorry, that's her calling. That's her calling. Not for very long. Not for very long. Not for very long.
One black eye, one swollen jaw, one busted lip, two busted lips, that would be the top and the bottom, one knocked out tooth on either side, several hundred wedgies, and I didn't even think black guys gave other black guys wedgies, but I'm the proof that it's true. 8 months has been this struggle. The 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th parent-teacher conference that we just left, and Principal Johnson, that asshole, said what he always said at the 7th, 8th parent-teacher conference to each respective sets of parents: boys will be boys, they will be rough. Gentlemen, go back to your class. Oh, but before we went back to our classrooms, he made us shake hands and apologize. I don't know what I was apologizing for. I was the one that was being bullied by Eric Williams. 6'2", 187 pounds in the 6th grade because he failed it twice. But we shook hands nevertheless, and Eric said, I'm sorry. As he had the 7, 8, 9, this being the 10th time that he said so. As soon as we got out the hallway, he showed the sincerity of his apology by punching me in the jaw and running off down the hallway cackling like the Joker. Jennifer Lopez's movie Enough would not be made as of yet, but I had enough of Eric and his bullying. It was close to 12:05, so instead of going back to class, I went to the lunchroom because that's the time the 6th graders would go to lunch at Myra Bradwell Elementary School. And we would sit and complain about all the homework we have, talk about the plans for the weekend, share what's in our lunches, and just laugh and have a good time. Normally, I didn't partake in that day. I had my eyes focused on the entrance of the lunchroom, looking at my Batman watch, waiting. And at 12:25, as he had every day, every week, every month for the last 8 months, he showed up. Eric the bully. And instead of terrorizing the other 6th graders as he had before, he made a beeline to one table, the one I was sitting at. The anticipation, the tense nature of the situation was palpable. It was similar to LeBron James getting a steal, no one in front of him, and you knew there was a Sports Center highlight dunk coming. And everybody waited. But they would be disappointed. When Eric got 2 feet within me, I stood up and extended my hand. And in my hand was the reason for this epic conflict of good versus evil. All 6 cents worth of chocolate milk. And I placed it in his hand and I nodded and I sat back down with my classmates. Before I did, brief shock registered on his face. But then the condescension returned. And he smacked me upside my head and told me I better do this every day from now on. And he went about his way. I just nodded. At 12:40 p.m., Mrs. Green, our teacher, came down and she lined us up. Girls on the left, boys on the right, to take us back to class. Once we got up to our floor, I stepped out. Mrs. Green, I have to go to the bathroom. My chocolate milk that I drank didn't go down well. Because I was one of the more behaved and better educated intellect students, she said, sure, James, go right ahead. But you don't have a pass, so hurry up. I said, thank you, Mrs. Green. Oh, my goodness, my stomach hurts. And I ran to the bathroom because I really had to go. But I didn't have to go. There are 3 stalls on the 2nd floor in the 6th grade bathroom. And we know not to use the middle one because it floods. I took that stall, crept onto the top of the toilet, closed the door and waited, looking at my Batman watch again, waiting. At 12:44, in through the doors was a pair of blue Chuck Taylor All-Stars with gold strings through them. Eric the bully, as he had every day, every week for the last month that I've been watching him, showed up to the bathroom. He took the stall next to me. And for the next 2 minutes, the most horrible sounds and rancid smell came from the stall next to me. I've never been to hell. I don't know what brimstone smells like. But I've been to Gary, Indiana, and I've been to New Jersey. I figured you put them both together, they smell like that. Later, thankfully, finally, the flush, the exit. And I'm sure Eric the bully walked towards the mirror, the primp and cream. But I heard the faucet come on and I thought to myself, wow, Eric the bully washes his hands? I crept off the stool, removed the giant U.S. Army rubber ducky boot, waterproof, snowproof, from my right foot. I crept out of the stall, and just as Eric was turning around, he and my boot went on their first date. They went on their second date. They went on their third date, their fourth date, till finally, Eric the bully had fallen. And I was going to walk away, put my boot back on and go to class, triumphant. But then I remembered the broken glasses, the black eye, swollen jaw, the knocked out teeth, the wedgies. And I didn't even think black guys gave other black guys wedgies, but I'm the proof. So I kept swinging down. I kept swinging down. I kept swinging downward. I kept swinging downward. So finally, fluid trickled from his forehead. Water droplets escaped his eyes. There were sounds coming from him, wailing, crying. Eric the bully was not a monster. Yes, he was 6'2", 187 pounds, because he failed the 6th grade twice. Yes, but he was a boy. He could be hurt, and I was going to. Not only just for me, for every other 6th grader that he bullied. And so I did. Until finally, there were hands on me. One set of hands I recognized because on the left hand, the wedding ring finger, Mrs. Green had just got engaged, she told us. I recognized the ring, but there were other hands stronger. She must have known. Pulled me off of Eric. But not before I could get close enough. And you should have seen the abject terror. It was etched in his face as if somebody had carved it. And I got close to him. I said 2 words. 2 words. They were historical. Never again. Never again. And he pulled me away. And as I went to the office to receive my suspension, down the hallway, my 6th grade classmates were clapping. There were teachers nodding at me. One of them said, "Good job." And then I didn't understand the gravity of what the importance of these things they said and did. But once I got older, I knew. I knew. Sometimes that which torments us, sometimes that which persecutes us, that enslaves us, in this case, the bullied, sometimes becomes the bully.
Yeah, that's good enough. All right, cool. Yeah, we got enough money. We're fine. All right, cool. So, all right, way back in the day, back in grade school, which was way too long ago now, I had a bully. Theme tonight is bullying. And my bully's name was, what was his name? What's a good name for a bully?
Rich.
No, you don't get to choose. Derek? Fucking Derek. Asshole. Yeah, Derek was a piece of shit. No, I had a bully named Derek, and he was a fucking asshole, and he just like, you know, because back in the day, I was a skinny little piece of shit. I still am, but back then, I was just like malnourished. I was just like tiny. I was like 90 pounds most of my life, or like 70 pounds, I don't know. But, you know, I was an easy fucking target. I was a dork. I was a nerd. In case you can't tell by my shirt, which is a Firefly shirt, I was just like the easiest target in the world. And he loved to just like do things to me just for no fucking reason. He'd come up, he'd pinch me, he'd pull my hair, he'd like pull my ears, he'd lick his finger and stick it in places, and he'd like, one time I came out to recess, and I swear to God, he said, he didn't say one word to me, he just grabbed me by the hair and just dragged me around. Just like, he was just carrying me around like a dog on a leash the entire fucking recess, all 40 minutes of it. Just holding me there. And I didn't say anything either. I was just like, okay, this is my recess now. Okay. That's how it was, you know, for a while, me and Derek. And this exacerbated for me kind of an issue I had with being touched. I just didn't care. I never really got the hang of it. And, you know, it was stuff like that that just kind of convinced me that it just wasn't for me. People's personal spaces, my own personal space, you know, I didn't really understand how you're supposed to violate that, you know, how you're supposed to get into somebody else's space, you know. And this was the height of the self-esteem generation of the 90s, where it's like, no, nobody can ever touch anyone ever. Everybody has a force field, and anyone who touches anyone is attacking them. And this is terrible. So we could never do that. So that was my life, and I just didn't get it, you know? And then I hit puberty at like 22, and like, it was confusing. confusing in high school, where there's like people are developing in weird ways, and you get these strange fantasies, and like girls have boobs, and you're like supposed to hug them, and it's like, there's boobs there. So it's confusing. It was a very confusing time. So I just decided in high school, you know what, I just don't want to deal with this. I just wasn't interested. So I just kind of retreated into the basement, as many nerds do. I retreated into the basement, just kind of didn't go outside, didn't do a whole lot. I stayed in the basement. I got really good at Counter-Strike and World of Warcraft, and not a whole lot else. And that was my life for a while, and I just spent so much fucking time on this rusty old futon that I just started atrophying. I swear that's the only word for it, is atrophying. Atrophying away. I was wasting away. And what ended up happening was I spent so long in the basement, just lying there, playing my video games, that I started getting these headaches. And I don't know what these were. I went to the doctor. The doctor said, drink more water. And I did. And it didn't help. I got these headaches just from lying there all day, every day. It was this weird fucking pressure that would build in my brain. I don't know what it was. It was such a pain in the ass. So finally I decided, I gotta do something. I don't care what. I gotta do something to get rid of this. So I started just doing, for every load screen in my video games, whatever I was playing, for every load screen I would do 10 sit-ups. I just hooked my feet through the handrail, what's it called? I don't know. The headboard on the futon. And I just did 10 sit-ups, because I can do that. That's okay. I did 10 sit-ups. And then I did that for a few weeks, and I was like, okay, I can do that, so how about I do 20? And then I did 20 for every load screen in my video games. And then I played a little reward system, and then I did 30. And I was like, okay, that's all right, I can do this. And eventually I started doing push-ups too. I was like, okay, I'll do 20 sit-ups, 20 push-ups. And then I'll do 30 sit-ups, 30 push-ups. And then I'll do 40. And eventually I started doing 50 sit-ups, 50 push-ups before I even turned on the console. And eventually I got this weird little workout routine going, where I just do this whole little workout routine before I even turn on the console, and then I do more during the load screens. And it started where I kind of like incentivized this little workout routine for me. And it wasn't too long after I started going to the gym, which is a whole nother, laugh and a half when you don't know what the fuck you're doing, when you show up and everybody's jacked out of their mind doing all these different things. I figured it out piece by piece. And I knew I was making progress where I did one of my dorky ass costume days with some of my nerdy friends. We all put on costumes and ran around Navy Pier. It was a lot of fun. But I ended up taking off my shirt in front of people for like the first time in my life, pretty much. And one of the girls looked over and she was like, God, John, you got abs. And I was like, really? Alright. Cool. Yeah. No, I like this. Working out. It's cool. It's alright. So I got interested. I started going to the gym, I started doing all that like physical stuff. It was interesting. It was a whole new world. And eventually, I not too long ago, I started doing Krav Maga, which is a martial art. It's a martial art. Yeah. Except it's not an Asian martial art. It's completely different than that. No. Yeah, that's not correct. No. It's an Israeli. It's a Jewish martial art. It's an Israeli martial art. Yeah. More like that. No, yeah. It's an Israeli martial art. It was invented by the Israelis, who are a people who know what it's like to be picked on. So these people know the Krav Maga, for those who don't know, as far as I'm aware, it is just Hebrew. The word Krav Maga is just Hebrew for dick punch. The entire martial art is based around attacking the groin. It's just, you grab it, you pull it, you twist, you grab, you knee it, you fucking just like bite it, scratch it, whatever. It's all, because it's about winning. It's not about energy, it's not about chi, it's not about meditation, no, it's about fucking stabbing the guy's eyeballs out. And it's awesome, it's cool. So it was great for somebody like me who had, once again, like 4% body fat. It was interesting. And we did that, it's a really intense training program too. It's push-ups, sit-ups, I was really grateful for all my basement workouts when I did that, because I wasn't quite puking. I was puking, but not quite. And then my teacher, who's like my age, except jacked out of his mind, he had us do these exercises where after we were all worked out, push-ups, sit-ups, all that jazz, we just get in the room, get in the dojo, and it'd just be me and some other guy, and sometimes he's like my size, and sometimes he's 300 pounds and 6'5". And we put on vests and helmets and gloves, and he just said, go! And we just try to like fucking do whatever the fuck we could, just try to punch each other, grab each other, what the fuck ever. He said, try not to aim for the head. You still got hit in the head. It just like fucking is Fight Club. And eventually we got good at that after a couple of weeks. So we took off the vests, and then he said, go, and we just fucking beat the shit out of each other. And then we took off the helmets, and it was like, okay, just fucking beat the shit out of each other. And then we took off the gloves, so just me and some other random guy just beating the shit out of each other in the basement. It was awesome. I really liked it. It was cool, We hung it out afterwards. So yeah, and that was Krav Maga for me for a little while. It was really cool. Since that time, since doing this whole new routine, I don't flinch anymore. When people come up to me and try to pinch me or poke me or pull my hair or whatever, I don't flinch. I used to flinch. I used to be like a little tiny. I don't care anymore. I don't give a shit. Because I've had the shit kicked out of me by a 300-pound man. Legally, somehow. I don't know. It's cool. And look, I'm not saying since I've done Krav Maga I could totally kick your ass. No, I couldn't. I'd still get my ass kicked if anybody in this room tried some shit with me, believe me. But I'm not afraid of that. It's like, you're gonna get the shit kicked out of me. Okay, that's happened before. I don't know. It's nice because now I've done this and my frame of reference is raised, and it's cool. And if I ever see Derek again, I'm gonna pull his dick out. So, yeah.
So I was always this innocent, trusting kid. I was the good kid. And, I never really lied about anything because I didn't do anything cool enough to lie about. So when I would turn 15, I started to do normal teenager things like smoke weed and drink and want to go to parties, but I wasn't really invited, so I didn't actually actively go to them. But I had maybe the option. So when I was 15, this guy, Walter, this crazy dude, Walter, invited me to his party. Now, of course, I was overly trusting, and I'd been to kind of a party at his house before, and given how I was at the time, I had this eternal hope that this, cute guy from Science Olympics was going to be there. Now, in retrospect, I know that the cute guy's never there. But, at the time, my idea of cute guy was, skinny jeans and black hair and those thick rimmed glasses. He didn't even have a good personality, and we never really talked, but I thought he was cute because he was in Science Olympics, and that's attractive, right? So I told my mom I was gonna sleep in my backyard. This was the first and last time I ever snuck out of the house. I told her I was gonna sleep in my clubhouse, and I got my sleeping bag out there. I waited until she went to bed, or until I thought she went to bed, and I stuffed pillows in my sleeping bag like you do in movies, and took my bike and left, and I went to Walter's house. And Walter's nuts. He is the kind of guy, I recently looked at his Facebook page, and he's one of those people that always has a different name that has nothing to do with his name, but he's the Dark Lord of the Mother of the Universe. Or shit like that, because he's probably hiding from the FBI. Just this crazy dude. He got married in the park in junior year of high school and burned his engagement jewel into his hand and then got divorced a few months later. But it's okay, it's Walter. And I had this odd trust in the fact that he's always crazy, and I always know not to trust him, if that makes any sense. So I went to this party, and I get there, and I have to explain a little bit about the fact that I had been there once previously before, also with the eternal hope that this guy was going to be there, never there. And this big guy Carlos, though, was there. So because I was 15 and he was there, and it sounded like a good idea, and I just was like hungry for any experience. So, you know, there's this big guy, Carlos. You know, he actually went to jail eventually, but anyway. So I get to the party, and Carlos is there once again, because it's Carlos, right? Don't we all know what Carlos? So Carlos is there at the party. And again, it's not like an actual party. If we had been using the term kickback then, it would have been a kickback with few people and a lot of drugs and drinking. So I'm drinking like these Jello shots. I'm eating alcohol. And people start doing all these crazy drugs that, you know, like I'm 15, I'm very innocent. I haven't seen these drugs, but I know they're really bad. And they involve like tin foil, but not the weed kind of tin foil, but like spoons and injection and weird things and crushed up things, extorting things. And so everyone's getting really crazy. I'm just drinking. We go out to Walter's pool, and Walter pushes me in the pool. And at that time, I had my flip phone in my pocket, my Sprint flip phone that clicks when you shut it. Yeah. It was my whole life. Like, it was my whole independence. I had this flip phone, and it died when it drowned. So, I was at this stupid party with a phone that I couldn't call anyone on. My entire independence as a child was ruined. I had no phone. I couldn't call the police. Not that at this point I didn't need to call the police, but I couldn't if I needed to. And I couldn't call any friends to like go sleep over at their house. So my phone's dead. We go back inside. Everyone's drugs are heightening more, their highs or whatever. And Carlos, the big guy, decides to start punching things. And he just, you know, he starts out small, like he's just like, I don't know what he's mad about, but he's really fucking mad. He's like, punching. And then he goes up to Walter and he's like, man, he's like, punching Walter. And then he looks at me like I did something to him besides make out with him. And he like starts going up to me and starts trying to punch me. And Walter goes in the way like, whoa man, it's a girl, so you can't do that. And thank God for Walter, am I right? So I like escaped that one. But Carlos is still on the punching game, and so he then decides to start punching the wall. Because, you know, it's there. So he starts punching the wall. And there's a hole in the wall. He actually punched a huge hole through the wall. And I've never seen a hole in a wall until this moment, but it was very weird. Because it's like watching a demolition movie in front of you happening, and you actually see this huge hole in drywall. It's just this blackness. So obviously this caused a lot of sound. We didn't know until this moment that Walter's mom was home the whole time, because that's when you throw parties, right? When your mom's home. So his mom comes in, this slick back ponytail, she's got like blonde hair, but it's so greasy that it's brown, and she walks in and she's like, who the fuck are you guys? Get out of my house! Get out of my house! Get the fuck out of my house right now! What the fuck, Walter? What are you doing? Get out of my house! So I like get out, and there's this kid Jeremy. Now this is the point where I really should have gone home, but I was really afraid of like going back into my house at an odd hour and being caught at that hour and then having to explain the fact that I was out. So I decided to stay out instead. And this kid Jeremy, who's kind of cute too, he had dark hair and like a nice smile. He lived on a reservation, and he was like, no, don't go home. I know of another party. Okay. Because party has done so much for me at this point. So I follow him, we walk with my bike, my wet clothes, my flip-flops. We walk about 5 miles to where the 7-Eleven meets the statue of Paul Bunyan and the trailer park. We are partying at the trailer park. Wonderful. We're not even partying in a trailer in the trailer park, we're partying at the picnic bench in the outdoors of the trailer park, the yard, the trailer park yard. And it's me and this kid Jeremy that I don't know at all, that I followed there, and these other like older people smoking and drinking and whatever. I'm like, okay, this sucks, but whatever. You know, maybe something exciting will happen. And then this guy at the table starts being like, talking about his day. And he's like, talking about how he saw that he caught this guy, his friend, having sex with his girlfriend in his shed. He's like, I'm gonna fucking kill him. I'm gonna fucking kill this guy. I walked in on him, he's fucking my girlfriend. I'm gonna fucking kill this guy. I'm gonna go home and get my gun. I'm gonna fucking shoot him. So, I didn't want to see a murder scene, and he was pretty serious about shooting this guy who was fucking his girlfriend in his shed. So, that's the point where I made up any excuse possible to leave. I got on my bike, and I just fucking biked. And I to this park around 3 a.m. 3, 4, something. And I figured this is a safe refuge. This is a residential area. It's not far from my house. I'll sleep in the park until sun up, and then I'll sneak back in my house, and no one will know that I was gone because I'm sneaking back once the sun comes up. So I decided to put my bike at the end of the tube slide and sleep inside the tube slide so I could wash my bike at the end of the tube slide. Didn't think about the fact that I would have to lay upside down in order to wash my bike, in which case I would not be able to sleep or wash my bike. So that didn't work out very well. I was in the tube slide uncomfortably trying to sleep and also trying to make sure my bike didn't get stolen. And like half my clothes, I don't really have clothes on at this point because they're all wet and soaked, and so I put them on my bike to dry out. And like I have a phone, but I can't call anyone because that would be too convenient. So I'm in this sketchy park, and all of a sudden this truck decides to start coming around the park. Just normal at first, it's a residential area, it's fine. Then it comes around again, and this isn't a nice truck, it's a sketchy truck. And then it comes around a third time and just stops right where I am in the middle of this park, like basically without my clothes. So I'm like, fuck. I have survived this whole night so far of sneaking out of the house. I have dodged a murder scene. I have dodged being punched in the face. My phone doesn't work, but I've survived without it. I am not about to get raped or killed. So, by whoever is in this truck. So I got on my bike and I just biked and biked and biked as fast as I could until the sun came up for a few hours. And then I snuck back in the house. And when I came back in, I saw that my mother was actually sleeping on the couch all night, so she probably knew that I was not home. The next day, I, told her, oh, I had a great time sleeping in the clubhouse. So much fun. Looked at the stars. She didn't say anything. She didn't acknowledge the fact she knew I was not home. And that's when I realized that there are actually worse things than being caught by your parents.
Thanks, Emily. Emily Roth, everyone. Okay, so as Emily said, I'm from Michigan, and this is my story. This just needs to be said. There's two things that Michigan leads the United States in, and that's septic tanks and bowling leagues. You need to know that. It's a true fact. I learned that in college, in Michigan. So growing up in Michigan will make you do weird things. And that's not because Michigan is weird. Quite the opposite. Michigan is pretty bland. It's like the saltine crackers of geographical locations. Especially West Michigan. I grew up in like any town USA, where like gray is an exotic color. If you ask someone what their favorite restaurant is, your responses tend to be McDonald's, Chili's, Applebee's, just any chain restaurant that you can find off of any exit of any expressway anywhere in America, because that's Michigan. But somehow, growing up in the great cultural hub of suburban USA, whether it was luck, just the randomness of existence, fate, some kind of weird Jungian, Freudian, subconscious bullshit, I really got in the arts, I really got into music, and I got like just enough people encouraging me that I thought, well, maybe I could do this, kind of like my ticket out of town. And I took music pretty seriously. I took it serious enough to know that I needed to get the fuck out of Michigan. And like all nerdy art kids who grew up in like any town Midwestern USA, I ended up here in Chicago. But before I moved to Chicago, I had like one more gig with a band I was playing with in Michigan at the time. And we were a noise rock band. And if you don't know what noise rock is, I mean, you can probably guess, but you'll be pretty close. So we had this last gig, and we're gonna play it anyway. Kind of knew like that was kind of like the end of like a certain part of my life, and it's special and all that stuff, whatever. So we get to the gig. It's just like a normal gig, load in, get all the gear in, doing all the things you do as a musician. And our bass player comes up to me, and like, out of the blue, he's like, hey man, you wanna do some mushrooms? Now at this point in my life, my experiences with drugs were like pretty limited. Didn't like psychedelic drugs, hadn't really done anything, didn't really even smoke pot. I was like the kind of guy, like, if you asked for a light, like, I didn't even know a lighter, never bought a lighter in my life, like, not my thing. So, you know, so I was like, shrooms for a show? Like, what, are you kidding me? Like, when I thought about it, like, I would know would be the answer, right? That's like what people would say. That's like your normal answers. No, I'm not getting drugs for a show. Like, who does that? And I just thought about it, and I was like, you know what, fuck it. Yeah, let's do it. You know, like, fuck the rules. Like, fuck it all. Let's just fucking do it. So we went out back to this old, shitty, brown German van, and he got out these dried up fungus plants, and he was gonna do an eighth of shrooms, and it's like, was coaxing me, like, yeah, you should do an eighth, that's like what I do, that's like the normal amount. And I already thought at this point, like, well, fuck, man, if we're already going overboard, if we're already gonna do shrooms before a show, why do a normal amount? And I remembered this number, 5 grams. I don't know if anyone here has ever heard of Terrence McKenna. And if you don't know who he is, you should know who he is. But Terrence McKenna wrote that he believed, after doing years and years and years and years and years and years of psychedelic drugs, that the optimal amount that a human being should intake in a sitting is 5 grams, which he called a heroic dose. So I remembered this number, and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna do 5 grams. So I did. Now the first great thing I got from this experience was, you know, has anyone here done shrooms? So they taste terrible. It's like nature's malort. It's shit. It's awful. But I learned, if you eat them with sun chips, not too bad. Actually, cheddar cheese sun chips specifically, pretty good. Pretty good. Tastes like a psychedelic tangerine. Kind of. So anyway, ate the shrooms in this van, because we were cool. And went back into the venue, tried to act, you know, normal and all that. It was about half an hour before we played, and it hit me. It like kicked in. And it was like, immediately brought images of like being a kid and like being at a pool and doing the diving board for the first time, you know? Like, it's cool, and like all the cool kids do it, and there's like this romanticized danger of it. You go up to the edge, you know, and then you jump off. But in a diving board, when you realize that was a fucking mistake, by the time you realize that, you're already hitting the water. When you're on 5 grams of mushrooms, and you have to play for a bunch of people, and you realize this is a huge fucking mistake. This is like jumping off the diving board and being extended over water for like 12 hours. And you can't, there's just nothing you can fucking do about it. You bought the ticket, now you're taking the ride. It's like trying to jump off a fucking roller coaster at peak height. So yeah, so I started to freak out a little bit, a little paranoid, you know. You know, the normal things you would think when you're paranoid and drugs, like, what the hell am I doing? I'm playing a show in like some, I don't even know what it was, like a converted bowling alley with some fucking crust punk GRE space. And like, this is my life. I'm like, what is happening and why am I doing this? And all these things. You know, I get a tap on the shoulder. Well, it's our turn to play. We gotta go play now. Let's go play. So in my paranoia, I decided it's a really great idea not to tell the other guys in the band that me and the bass player had just done a bunch of shrooms. So they had no idea that we were like tripping out of our minds. So they get me on stage, get me behind the drums, and then we start to play. And at first I like had no idea what I was doing or how I was gonna play or how I was gonna do this. And it was like, it's like I was watching myself like through my mind's eye. And I was just like, regular beat ever again after that show. It's a hard thing to explain. I never liked free jazz before I did mushrooms, and now it's like I can just listen to it endlessly forever. So playing this set and just going fucking nuts, man, and just having no idea like where this was coming from inside of me. And then I went from just watching myself, and then I'm like watching the band as well, and like feeling what they're playing. And then like as the set went on, I'm also like third person, like floating about myself, just watching the crowd, and watching the band, and watching all of it, and watching how it's like all interconnected. But not like some hippy dippy bullshit kind of way, but like in a real way, like in this like interconnectedness. How everything needs everything else for it to happen. And I never really thought about the world that way. Never thought about myself being part of that world. And it was very liberating. So we finished the set. I felt pretty good about it. Surprisingly, someone in the band actually recorded the show. And I was very hesitant to like listen to it, but we did. It actually did sound pretty good. So it was not just like my drug-addled mind that actually thought it was a good show. It was like, not too bad. But anyway, so we finished the set. But what I didn't think about at all, doing mushrooms before playing a show, is it's not like you just play the show and then the trip's over. So now, we had to move all of our gear off stage. And like I had friends there who wanted to talk to me and socialize. I couldn't do anything. I'm just sitting there at my drum stool thinking, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be around these people. I'm looking at my drum kit, like taking it apart. It's like trying to fucking reverse engineer an alien spacecraft. I had no idea what to do. And like the guys in my band thought I was like joking around, like, come on man, like we gotta load stuff off. Next band's coming on. I just had to break down, like, well, believe it or not, guys, I actually took 5 grams of mushrooms before the show. Didn't tell you guys, and I can't do anything right now. And because I was never the kind of guy that did that kind of thing. Like my bandmates didn't even have time to like get pissed. They were just so shocked. Somehow our bass player Mike too, he was on shrooms and he handled that a lot better than me. But so they had to move all my shit off. This whole time I'm just sitting there on my drum stool while these things on. And then the next drummer, he sets all his drums in front of me. My drum stool at this point is like my island. It's my safety net. It's the only thing keeping me connected to the reality